As a solo founder and engineer, I built, scaled, and exited my first SaaS business, ToutApp. Now, the odds were stacked against me. I didn't know any VCs. I didn't have a network. I didn't know anything about go-to-market or sales and marketing, not nearly as much as I do now. And I didn't really quite know how to go turn my idea into a real business. But along the way, I was able to help create a $5.5 billion category called sales engagement. Along the way, I was able to raise from the likes of Andreessen Horowitz, Jackson Square Ventures, and other incredible venture capital firms. And along the way, not only was I able to exit the company, but somehow I ended up part of a double exit. Marketo, the company that bought ToutApp, I joined their executive team as SVP of strategy, and I was able to help sell Marketo to Adobe for $4.75 billion. Fast forward to today, I've learned so many things from that journey, so many lessons. But having coached hundreds of founders since selling my company, I've seen the same lessons trip up founders as they come to me for help. So in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through 5 of my biggest lessons learned from my first SaaS business, ToutApp. It is my sincere hope that you're able to learn from these lessons, you're able to learn these principles, and you're able to accelerate your path to the next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So if you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of my SaaS go-to-market coaching programs, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. When I first started my company, if I were to make a list of all the things that could go wrong, and I actually ran that company, and I ended up crossing off every single one of those things that went wrong, looking back, I would still do that journey again. And that's essentially what happened to me. Plenty of things went wrong along the way. I made plenty of mistakes, but along the way, a lot of things still went right. And the journey was totally worth it. And that's one of the reasons why you see second-time founders and third-time founders and founders that want to build enduring companies, long-term companies. So in this episode, looking back on my journey as a SaaS founder for my first SaaS business, I'm gonna give you the 5 principles, the 5 lessons that I've learned that I still see founders struggling with today. If you're excited to dig into lesson number 1, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's dig right into it. So lesson number 1, and this is still true today, and I have to remind myself whenever I'm coaching founders, is market is more important than product, the people, or the go-to-market. And this is something that I learned the hard way. When I was first starting out ToutApp, what I really wanted to do was fix email. And I was targeting business email. I was targeting anyone that was using business email. And the product was good, and we were getting some users, but we just couldn't break through. It was too broad. But as soon as we started focusing on salespeople who really needed to use email to generate more pipeline, the same product, the same go-to-market motions, everything started to take off. The thing is, this is something that I've seen over and over with founders that I have coached, with founders that I have met. Even if you have an incredible team, even if you have a 10x product, even if you apply all the go-to-market principles the right way, ultimately the market determines how quickly your company is going to grow. One of the most important decisions you make as a founder is which market you want to focus on. What's the urgent and important problem that you are going to be solving? Because over and over again, I've seen you can take a really great market, but you can pair it with an okay team, an okay people, an okay go-to-market. If the market forces are that great, it will pull you to success. Whereas you can flip that and take a really terrible market. You can take really talented founders, experienced founders, go-to-market machines that are really humming, and a product that's really great, but the market is just not there, and they're not going to be that successful. So ultimately, one of the biggest decisions is a lesson I learned the hard way. Market is more important than product, people, and even go-to-market. And given where SaaS is today, given how competitive it is, even though you can technically vibe code a product, it's still a higher bar than ever before. It's more competitive than ever before to win in SaaS and in AI, which means that you still have to have great people. You still have to have great go-to-market. You still have to have a really great product, but at the same time, you really need to pick a great market. And when you have all of those things, that's when you start to get a really great business starting to come together. So think about market first before you think about anything else, because it'll make everything else a heck of a lot easier to execute on. The second lesson that I learned is VCs choose markets. You don't choose VC. This is something that I see in a discussion over and over. There's so many venture-backed founders that are talking about being venture-backed and how amazing it is. And there's so many bootstrap founders knocking on venture-backed founders and saying, oh, I choose to be bootstrapped. Now, the truth is, when I started ToutApp, I started with the intention that I really wanted a bootstrapped and profitable business. And in fact, right in the beginning, we were profitable. And even as we approached $1 million in ARR, we were break even. However, along the way, when we pivoted into the sales space, when we started to see even the beginnings of sales engagement, at that time, we didn't even know to call it sales engagement. There was a number of companies that came together to start calling it that. But even when we started to see how quickly it was moving, that market was pulling us so fast, we quickly learned that this was going to be a VC market, meaning this market is going to grow. And as you fast forward to today, sales engagement did grow. It is now a $5 billion category. I think that founders think that they get to choose whether they go into venture capital or not. But really what's happening is venture capital chooses markets. And if you happen to be in a market that venture capital has chosen, then either they're going to offer you a term sheet or they're going to offer your competitor a term sheet. Now, there's plenty of edge cases here. Founders will point out, and you may point out like, well, about TK, in this VC market, this bootstrap company did really well. It really depends on the life cycle of that VC market. So if you're in the tail end of the life cycle of the VC market, the winners have already won, they're closer to IPO, then you could get bootstrap companies that come in and start to disrupt them in the lower end. But in reality, if you take a true venture capital market right now, let's just say foundational models or best of breed AI companies and AI applications, those are VC markets right now. And it's much harder to win as a bootstrap company given the war for talent, resources, and attention. I really think that this is a hard learned lesson for a lot of founders. Not to say that you can't build a bootstrap company. You can absolutely build a bootstrap company. You'll have to be in a market that VC has not chosen. And then you choose to be able to be bootstrapped and be able to still win and have an incredible outcome. However, if you're playing a game where VCs are playing, if you're going after a large market that's at peak right now or about to peak, and it's the time when it's coming together and there's winner take all dynamics, then you don't really have a choice with venture capital. Either you're going to take it because it's being offered to you or your competitor is going to take it. The dynamics of the market changes. Now, at the same time, there are founders that raise venture capital for bad markets. In those kind of cases, it's usually a tier 3 venture capital firm making a bet and the market doesn't turn into anything. In those kind of cases, the founders are really just wasting their lives on a non-venture scale idea. So the biggest lesson here, and I could probably do an entire episode on this, and I'm sure it's going to be a little controversial of a take, and you can share your thoughts in the comments below. But VCs choose markets. You don't really choose it. You don't choose VC. VC will choose you. And if you don't take it, then your competitor will, and you won't be able to compete in that market. That's generally how that starts to play out. All right, now before I go to lesson number 3, 4, and 5, let me pause here for a second. This is a little bit of an in-depth episode. I'm gonna go a little bit slower. I'm gonna give you the story and my thoughts on it. Some of this might be controversial. Some of this may be no-brainers. I encourage you to share your thoughts on the comments. This is just my take and my experience. Having done this, having been in this industry for so long and having coached so many founders and seeing the pattern recognition across all these different cycles and across all these companies. Also, if you're in this stage where you're building out your go-to-market and you're building out your SaaS business and you really want to reduce your execution risk, I encourage you to grab a copy of my 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. This is an in-depth guide that gives you the 5 core pillars of driving growth for a SaaS company. It highlights those 5 pillars and also links to specific episodes in this YouTube channel so you can learn more about them. It's an incredible guide. We've had tens of thousands of downloads of it. I've gotten so much great feedback around it, so you should grab your copy. You don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this episode. I'll also link to it below. Also, smash that like button if you're getting value from this video. All right, let's go to lesson number 3. Lesson number 3 is avoid the one more feature trap. So if you play this out, once you've chosen the market, and you figure out like, okay, this is a great market. We're gonna start to really sell in this market and we're gonna sufficiently fund the company, depending on the market. Given the market, you can bootstrap it, you can do friends and family, you can do venture capital, you can take an SBA loan. I've seen all kinds. I've worked with founders from all different permutations. And now you're selling and you're trying to get revenues and you're looking for that next stage of scale. One of the biggest lessons I learned at this phase is you wanna avoid the one more feature trap. The one more feature trap is where sales aren't where you want it to be. Either you're just having trouble earning that first dollar, or let's just say you're at $1 million or $3 million and you want to get to 10 million, and you think that one more feature or that extreme expansionary or that second product line is what's going to get you to 10 million. And that's usually what I call the one more feature trap. Typically what I found is founders who are building software companies, when they encounter friction in the market, there's one of two paths forward. One is you go lean into the market and figure out what's broken, what's wrong, and you fix your go-to-market, or you revert back to your comfort zone of building more features, of coding, of designing. Most founders are artists, and so they go back to their comfort zone instead of really looking at the market, staring the customers in the eye and figuring out why they're not buying. And this is what I call the one more feature trap. Founders get into deluding themselves, saying, hey, if I just add this one more feature, then everyone's going to buy my product. And that's usually a trap, because more features, more expansions usually add more complexity to your product. Makes your demo more complex, makes it harder to sell, it makes it harder to convince people. So most of the time, these features are really traps. There are rare cases where a feature is truly something what you need in order to get deals done, or to really win in the market, or to be competitive. So it's really important to understand, are you avoiding the hard things like go-to-market, which is not in your comfort zone, and reverting back to your comfort zone, which is adding more features? Or do you truly need to add features? And the thing that I found is, I've been guilty of this too, is founders are smart people. So they'll find really, really clever ways to rationalize why they don't need to do sales and marketing, or don't need more go-to-market, and they just need to add this one more feature. I've heard so many incredible reasons, but then months later, founders will come back and say, hey, TK, you were right. I was just avoiding the hard thing. So you really want to figure out if you're in the one more feature trap, and which is really going to coding, which is your comfort zone, or you're avoiding the hard thing that needs to be done, which is typically leaning into go-to-market and really talking to more customers and really figuring out how to unlock that next stage of growth. That's lesson number 3. And by the way, what I want to say is, I don't say these lessons from a soapbox. Like every single one of these lessons, I've been 100% guilty of. I've learned the hard way. I've made these mistakes. And to be honest, you are probably going to have to make some of these mistakes to truly learn the lesson. So I don't know if you'll be able to avoid all these lessons, but at least you'll recognize it faster and get out of the lesson and learn the lesson faster. So I truly believe, having done this, I've been coaching, this is my 6th year coaching founders and running my go-to-market program. I truly believe that some lessons you just have to learn. We may not be able to help you avoid all the lessons, but we'll be able to help you learn the lessons faster. You want to plant these and just catch yourself when you're making these mistakes, and that way you can learn the lesson faster. Lesson number 4 is who versus what when scaling. This is one of the things that I've been seeing more and more. I work with a lot of founders that got to what I call the SaaS dead zone. They hit 1 million dead zone, or they hit 3 million dead zone. They hit like 10 million dead zone, meaning the things that they did to get to where they are stopped working. They stopped growing, they plateaued, and they're like, they don't know what's wrong, but they're kind of doing the same things that they were doing before to get to this spot. And so during these dead zones, the most natural thing you ask as a founder is, what do I need to do? But more often than not, once you're past 1 million in ARR, it's not really what do I need to do, it's who do I need? This could be a function of, we need the right outside perspective that has navigated this stage before, or we need to get real leaders in certain areas to actually own this and do this in a really great way. Or the people that we have, great people, and I'm super loyal to them, got us to this point, but they cannot get us to the next stage. And so we have to swap them out, or we have to upgrade them, or we have to put someone on top of them. It almost always is a who problem, including yourself. There may be things you have to change about yourself. It's a who problem versus a what do I need to do. This dovetails a little bit into avoid the one more feature trap. It's the same thing. What got you to 1 million or product market fit was doing more, was to actually add more features. But to get from 1 million to 3 to 10 and onwards is to actually do less and get more focused. And so you want to start asking who, not what. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned. I was actually just on a call with a founder, and he was telling me like, hey, we hit 1 million, we raised 4 million, we hired a head of marketing and a head of sales, they hired their teams, and then now like growth is slower than ever before. And he asked the right question, which is who, but the important thing with who also is, what does great look like? A lot of times when you're hiring people, what I told him was, the thing about a head of marketing and a head of sales, they're the best at selling one thing, and that's themselves first. they're going to sound really great, and you really want to vet what great looks like and if they're capable of doing great work for you. And so during this phase, when you're hitting these plateaus, when you're hitting these dead zones, you want to keep asking who are the right people that I need in order to get to the next stage. And you want to look at who's already on board, if you need to swap them out, or if you need to upgrade yourself, or if you need to bring new perspectives in. That's a super important question to ask. And I also learned that the hard way. All right, final lesson, number 5. Number 5 is founders still own sales and marketing. I made this mistake where when I hired my head of sales and I hired my head of marketing, I was taught like, hey, now you got to delegate. And I've made this mistake in multiple businesses. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I hired these really smart people. They're better than me, so I'm going to let them do their thing. And the biggest mistake I made was move away from the customer, move away from marketing, move away from sales. And the truth is, even if you look at the best founders, if you look at truly iconic companies, if you look at the most successful companies, the founders stay involved in the customer journey, in the customer mindset, and therefore sales and marketing. The founders are involved. And this is something that goes against VC advice, but it's really the VCs that have never run a company that'll give you this advice, and it's actually bad advice. They'll say like, hey, just delegate. You want to take a step back. You want to empower them. While that is all true, you still need a way to inspect what they're doing. You still need to stay tightly coupled in to the customer experience. And this is particularly true upwards to 10 million. It's true later than that, but 10 million, it's crucial. In fact, over and over and over, I've seen founders that let go of being part of the customer process. They tend to hit the dead zone faster. And the reality is the companies are so fragile at that stage. The markets are shifting dynamics so quickly. Only the founders can hear the hum of the engine and figure out, oh, the market's shifting a little bit, and therefore we may need to shift the configuration of our target market or our messaging. You can still empower the people that you've hired to do the work, but you still need to be involved. You still need to inspect. And so you still need to own sales and marketing. And this lesson I've seen play out with founders that I coach in very different ways. This can manifest itself in different ways. One way it can manifest itself is a super early stage founder with like $1 in revenue, hiring a fractional CMO to figure out their go-to-market for them. Almost certainly all the time they fail. I've also seen it where they just hire an agency and tell them to go figure it out. Almost always fails. Founders that don't own founder-led go-to-market to get to product market fit almost always fail. Mainly because it's only founders that can figure out this combination of the market, the product, and the go-to-market and how it all fits. It's only founders that can figure it out. So when founders try to outsource it to average humans, they never figure it out. Otherwise, they'd be successful founders. That's not something only successful founders can do. So I've seen it manifest that way. I've also seen it manifest where founders, and I alluded to this already, founders hire the VP of marketing, the like rock star VP of marketing. Yeah, usually the VCs bring them in, and they're like, oh, this person is a rock star. They crush it in the last role. They're going to crush it for you. And you're told to get out of the room. And you get out of the room and you quickly realize that person did it in the last company, but wasn't the person that actually did it in the last company. They happened to be in the room, but they weren't the person that made the magic happen, but they're riding the coattails of that. And so therefore they don't know what to do for you. So that happens very often. Other times it happens where they were the person that did it when they were up and coming, but now they've made their money and now they're in this gig and the VCs made them feel really good and you gave them a bunch of equity, but they don't have the fight in them anymore. So they can't do it again. So that's a risk also. In all of these cases, the founder has to stay involved in one way or another. You don't want to get in the way of the people you're hiring. You want to empower them, but you want to inspect what they're doing and you want to be part of the process and you want to keep your ear to what the customers are saying. Ultimately, the customer and what they're saying and what's happening in the customer journey will tell you everything you need to know about what marketing's doing and what sales is doing. So you want to stay involved in that. And that's one of the biggest lessons learned. So regardless of what stage you're in, you're trying to get to product market fit, you got to own your go-to-market. If you are driving to 1 million, you got to own your go-to-market. If you're at 1 million, now you need to start thinking about who are some of the leaders that you want to bring in. But you probably still can't afford the great ones or recruit the great ones because it's too risky. So you're still kind of owning it, but maybe bringing in some help. Once you're at 3 million, 5 million, 10 million, you absolutely must recruit really great leaders, but you still need to be involved. One of my favorite things that I learned was, at Salesforce, the CMO of Salesforce, the chief marketing officer, was not known as the chief marketing officer. They were known as the chief Mark officer, as in Mark Benioff. Mark Benioff was ultimately the chief CMO of Salesforce, and the CMO just basically had to hook into his vision and execute on it. And that's at their level. where they're over $1 billion in ARR. And so that's how involved you have to be in sales and marketing. I started out as a solo founder. I started out as an engineer. I still am an engineer, but I learned that the best of the best, you look at Steve Jobs, my heroes, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, they embraced sales and marketing, because that is not even optional. It's not even upside. It's required to win in building a company. All right, so let's recap the 5 lessons, and then I'll tell you about the guide so you can really own go-to-market. So lesson number 1 is market is more important than product, people, go-to-market. Great markets pull you up. And when you have all those other things, you're unstoppable. Number 2, VCs choose markets. This will be controversial. I look forward to the comment thread. You don't choose VC. Meaning VCs will choose markets. If you happen to be in that market, they'll give you a term sheet, whether you want it or not. And then you decide if you want to participate in that market anymore, because now that market dynamics is going to be very different. Number 3, avoid the one more feature trap. That's your comfort zone. So when things get hard, you go into saying, oh, I just need to build out one more feature. So you need to figure out if you truly need that one more feature to win, or if you're just using that as your comfort zone, avoiding doing the hard things. Some mix of both may be true, but you got to be intellectually honest. One thing I know, founders are super smart and you can convince yourself of anything. That doesn't mean it's the truth. So you need to look at what the truth is. Number 4, ask who versus what when scaling. We talked about all the different, you can rewind and look at that section again, because I talked about a bunch of the nuances there. And number 5, no matter what stage you're in, founders still own sales and marketing. The best founders, I'm talking the best of the best, they own sales and marketing and they embrace it. And they want to be close to the customer, and they don't let anyone take them away from the customer. I have made that mistake, and you should never let that happen. It almost killed my businesses more than once. So now you have it. Those are my 5 lessons learned from my first company, ToutApp. If you're in this stage where you're building out your SaaS business, your AI business, and you're looking to figure out how do I own go-to-market, how do I drive growth, you should grab a free copy of my 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. Inside of this guide, I walk you through the 5 key pillars that you need to think through to drive growth for your SaaS business. I include relevant videos that you can click on to view on this channel for each of those pillars. I even have a 1-page template that you can follow to flesh out your 5-point SaaS growth strategy. It's an incredible guide. It helps you really own all the pieces that you need to own. I've gotten tremendous feedback for it. So just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. Getunstoppable.com/strategy to grab your copy. Also, if you got value from this video, which hopefully you did if you're still watching, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. And honestly, we put a lot of love into these videos. We love it too when you smash that like button. Also, if you have a fellow founder, if you have a team member that would get value from this video, please share this video with them. It would just mean the world to us. If your VC is trying to get you to hire someone that sucks, send this video to them. Maybe it'll open their eyes. If you're part of a Slack group, a WhatsApp group of other founders and investors that will get value from this video, please share this as well. We want to help as many founders, we want to serve as many founders as possible. Also, I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. You'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK. I'll see you in the next episode or inside the 5-point SaaS growth strategy guide. Link is below, or just go to getunstoppable.com/strategy. Take care, everybody.